Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tiffany Benson, one part of Team Benson, and today I'm going to answer some of your gardening questions that I get. Now guys, just a reminder, we are doing our 10K giveaway. We are getting closer and closer every single day, so thank you guys all for sharing and letting people know about my channel because it means a lot to me. So just a reminder, we're going to be giving away a 4-pack from Mighty Crop, which thank you Mighty Crop for sponsoring us, a seed organizer, and also a $50 gift card to one winner to help them start their small space garden, or if they already have a garden, help them expand their garden. All you have to do is subscribe to my channel and also go over to IG and follow them on IG. For those of you guys that don't have an Instagram, Mighty Crop does have a YouTube channel, so you can go over to their YouTube channel and subscribe to them as well. So let's talk about the questions that you guys have been asking me. So the biggest question that I get is, it's getting hot. What are you doing? What are your plans for your garden? How are you going to let it survive all this heat? And yes, Arizona is now reaching triple digits. We have already reached 100 degrees for 2 days, and they haven't been in a row, and our evenings have been cooling down, so we're still considered spring. I know. But I am already taking the precautions to protecting my garden. So if you come to my garden, you will see that it is covered up for most of the time. Now I'm covering it up with 40% shade cloth right now, and then over there, that one is just like a sheer cloth. So at this point, you guys can use either or. Once it gets really, really hot, then you're gonna want the 40% shade cloth, or you're gonna want 50% shade cloth, depending on how your garden hits the sun. The second part I am doing is I'm going through and I am mulching all of my beds and my pots with a big thick layer of mulch. This is at least 2 to 3 inches of mulch. So I'm filling up all the pots with dirt. So any of the pots that are low on dirt, I'm filling them up with dirt. I've already done my big beds with compost, and then I am adding a thick layer of mulch to all of them. Right now, this section has all been completely done. Now, when it comes to shade cloth, you do not want your shade cloth touching your plants. When they touch your plants, then that can equal your plants getting burned. So these beans are already not loving this time of year right now because they are Kentucky Wonders and they would prefer cooler temperatures. So I will be planting a Chinese red long noodle bean in its place so that it would provide a little bit of a cover crop and they can take a little bit more of the heat. Right now, the tomatoes are taking a lot of the heat from the squash, so a lot of the brunt of the sun. But I do have the shade cloth above it here in order to go down in front of it in order to shield it from some of the intense rays. Now, eventually, my backyard will be covered with a structure like this so that then we can put the shade cloth on the top for when the foliage on the very top of it has died back or it just needs extra coverage. But for right now, we also do cover with the shade cloth here. Now, instead of letting it go directly onto the plants, because you don't want to do that because they will burn, I have things like tomato cages that I use to prop up the shade cloth, and then I also use my lawn chairs as well, just facing them here, to prop this one up. So guys, I forgot to mention one important thing about shade cloth. Now, my shade cloth, it is lower onto a lot of my plants because I don't have the structure built completely on my patio. But at night, so when sun goes down, I roll up my shade cloth so that the bees are able to get in and pollinate the plants. So I don't actually roll the shade cloth back up until I know that the bees are gone in because it's too hot for them to kind of stay out and I see the plants kind of need it. So if you don't have something that your shade cloth is sitting on top of to allow those bees to get in and pollinate your vegetables, make sure that you're removing the shade cloth and then putting it back on. I know it's time consuming, I know it might seem like a pain in the butt, but when you have fresh vegetables in the middle of the desert, it's worth it. So providing your desert garden with shade cloth is going to really help preserve your garden and keep it for a longer period of time. It'll also help you later on in the fall when we are starting our fall crops and it's going to be super hot, like 110, 115. You're going to have shade cloth in order to really keep the sun off those little baby starts. So get your shade cloth early. I'll put a link down below in the description where I get my shade cloth. I get it off at Amazon. It is an affiliate link, so if you guys do purchase, that does go back to help the channel from Amazon. So next thing I want to talk about is, people always ask me, what do you do to fertilize? Now, I only fertilize my garden a few times throughout the season, and that is because my soil has a lot of good things in it, so it's already pretty fertile for the crops to be growing. But I do fertilize when I am getting ready to put in new seedlings and when I have things that are like really starting to fruit. That's when I fertilize. So right now I will be fertilizing my garden. I use fish fertilizer and I also use worm tea that I'm getting from the AZ Worm Farm on Saturday. Hopefully I get there early enough. But in the meantime, between doing those fertilization things, I just let my garden grow. I don't put a lot of extra stuff on it just because I know my soil is really healthy. Now, if you're having health deficiencies in your soil or if your crops just aren't growing that well, then yes, you can be put on a regular fertilization schedule. But for me, I only do it when I have new things coming in until those seedlings really get a good, strong hold on what they're doing in my garden and when my garden is really fruiting. Luckily, that's usually around the same time. So I'll have like the things that were from last season really fruiting while I'm putting in new stuff, and then I can just fertilize at the same time. And then once those things die out and the other ones are starting to really kind of fill in, I let my garden kind of sit. But when I am fertilizing, I do it once a week. Next question, how do you grow so many invasive plants in your medicinal herb bed? Because yes, I have a bunch of invasive plants all together, and I will show you how I'm doing it. So yes, this is truly a small space that my medicinal herb plants are growing. And one of the things that I do to make sure everybody's getting enough light and sun and water is vertical gardening. Yes, you can vertical garden your chamomile. I think it's really funny that the chamomile was tilted this way and now it's starting to tilt itself up in order to reach the sun. As you can see, the flowers are bending up now versus bending down because they're no longer laying down on the ground. And I just got some little stakes and put in there. Other thing, I prune way back. So that is my catnip that I have a super secret project growing and I keep pruning it all the way down to the bottom when I prune it. So then that way it is not taking over everything else. Pruning is everything and it really makes a difference in your garden. So I always highly suggest to prune. As you can see, my tomatoes get very highly pruned and they grow beautiful and wonderful red tomatoes. Now for some of the really invasive things like mints and lemon balm that I know will take over and be there for a longer period of time, I then put those in pots, so then that way the whole bed isn't taken over and I'm not having to cut at it and prune it so much on a regular schedule. Right now, just having the catnip in there, yes, that is from the mint family and it is invasive, but being able to cut it back and dry it has been pretty well and helpful for me. Would I have put the catnip somewhere else? Probably. But for right now, we're doing what we can do. Next question. A lot of people are getting a lot of pests in their garden. I personally try not to put anything on my garden. Even natural things like neem oil, I try not to use in my garden from the simple fact that it's 100 degrees. So if I put oil into one of my plants, it's gonna burn. Even overnight, it's probably gonna burn because it sometimes, especially during the summer here in Arizona, it doesn't even cool down past 100 degrees at night. So that can be a huge problem. Now for those of you guys that don't live in the hot desert, neem oil could be a good solution for you. And even those desert gardeners, maybe during the winter, neem oil could be a good solution for you. Me personally, I just like to use a hard gust of water, where I just basically spray off any pests that are on the leaves, and I'm persistent with it. So every single morning or twice a day, depending on how bad the infestation is, I spray them off. Kind of a preventative measure as well, I will take some, I just forgot. I will take some worm tea and I will spray on my plants. That kind of gives it like a little bit of coating of beneficial bacteria. So that's one of the things I use just kind of as a preventative measure as my plants are growing up. I usually typically don't have too many pest problems as long as the plant is healthy and if it's not at the end of its season. So if you're planting a plant at the wrong time, you probably would get a lot of pest pressure. And if you are planting a plant that is just unhealthy, maybe you kept it in the pot too long, like when you were starting it, or it got too leggy, or it just something happened and it's unhealthy, that will cause a lot of pests to come in and eat the plant essentially, because plants send out a chemical for them to be taken out if they feel like they're unhealthy or if they feel like it's not the right season. Now sometimes there are a little bit of like outside forces that kind of just make it to where you have those issues in your garden. For me, living in the city and living in a townhome, sometimes it's not what I did to my garden, but it's what my neighbors are doing to their backyards or things that are just going on in the neighborhood. So one of the things I do is when we get ants, I actually have a whole video on that. I'll link it down below. So if you have ants in your garden, watch that video because it will help. I have another one on rodents. I will link that one down below too. So watch that one if you have rodents. And then one of my all-time favorites is just mixing a little bit of soapy water, like dish soap, with water and a little bit of vodka or rubbing alcohol and spray that on any type of like pest or anything like that. That will help get rid of a lot of things. If you are having problems with powdery mildew, remember right now that you have your squashes and your cucumbers and things like that that are going and starting to grow and get healthy. Start off by watering at the base of those. And then make sure that if you get any type of powdery mildew, at the first sign of it, spray it with a little bit of milk at night. And that will help kind of reduce that or cure that. Make sure you spray the underneath parts of the leaves because the powdery mildew will live underneath it, not on top. Now, when it comes to pruning, you guys know I am a big component of pruning, but there is one plant that last year when I said this, everybody was like, no, that's crazy. But there's one plant I do not prune. And I am going to show you that plant and show you why. Now I won't say I won't prune it because I do prune it, but I don't prune it until it's at a certain point. So that plant is my squash plant. So for those of you guys that don't know, the leaves on the squash plant or the stems are completely hollow. So if you cut it, stuff can get into your plant and also get into the base stem and really kill the plant. So if it does need pruning, which this one has a leaf here that could be pruned off, I wait until the plant naturally dies back and see how there is not a hole in it anymore. And then I cut it right before the opening is. So the plant has a chance of giving itself kind of like natural protection because it has already sealed itself off. Now I know some people are going to comment and say prune your squash plants, and yes, if you do that and that works for you, that is completely fine. This is just personally what I do in my garden. Like I said, I do prune it off. I just wait until the leaves are actually shrunken in to where it kind of developed already a scab for that plant, just because it's an open wound with a hollow stem that I have seen things crawl up in there and they've killed my plants before. And by me doing this, it has really helped me to be able to get my squash completely grown out and not have a bunch of pests in it. Now my last question that I have gotten a ton is, what are you doing with all of those tomatoes? And I'm going to take you inside so that you guys can see what it is that I'm doing with them. So we'll start off with the easiest way to preserve your cherry tomatoes, or tomatoes just in general, and that is just to wash them, remove all of the stems off of them, and then just put them into a freezer bag. I like to use these reusable freezer bags. I got this one from Grove. I'll link it down below, and if you don't have Grove, I'll link one on Amazon too. And then you just put them in there and then use them as you need them. There's pretty much to like zero prep or anything like that other than just washing it and removing the stem. So that makes life so much easier, and it adds a little bit of water to your dish when you are cooking them. Now the next thing I'm doing with my tomatoes is I can them. Now I water bath can my tomatoes, and it's a really simple process. I'll actually link that video down below too. I'll just put a little section that says helpful videos, and then I'll link all the ones that I've been talking about in there. So it makes it really, really simple to water bath can them, and it's pretty much easy. The last thing I do is I dehydrate them, and I make jars of soup because we don't have any Campbell soup in this house. We have dehydrated soup that we then add to a nice homemade chicken broth with some fresh herbs, and it's yummy. And in here I have the carrots that I had picked, and then I also have some of the cherry tomatoes, and then I have some leeks that I got from a farmer's market, and some noodles. And then you just add that to a pot of chicken stock, homemade chicken stock, because then it'll have all the flavorings and it'll be amazing. And then some more fresh herbs, salt and pepper, and any type of meat that you want, and it comes out perfect. So I hope that gives you guys some great answers, and I hope that you guys are growing yourselves gardens. And if you guys have any questions that you want answered, just leave them down below. If I get the question a lot, then I make one of these videos where I answer the question, so that way I can be able to show you. If not, I'll just answer it quickly if it's something that like I don't need to show you. But you know, sometimes it's easier to learn from looking at it than somebody talking about it. So hope that helps. But until next time, grow yourselves a garden, because even a small space can provide you with tons of food. Bye guys. Alright guys, if you made it this far in the video, comment down below. I know the big secret, because the Team Benson Etsy store will be coming soon, and starting with Malabar spinach seeds, straight from the Team Benson garden.